Hey guys, what's up? It's Gleekon, and I'm here again, bringing you another episode of Lore of Warcraft. As always, I am happy to hold hands with you as we walk along the path of Azeroth and the worlds around it together. On the last episode, we continued plugging around in Blasted Lands, almost got a crack at Taramis the Devourer until he just bugged out and disappeared. But we're making solid progress in that zone. Other than that, we're reading Warcraft Durotan. We just finished chapter 25. They're at the seat of the elements, or seat of the spirits, whatever it's called. And Red Walkers were waiting there in ambush. They defeated them, and we left with a sort of cliffhanger like, oh, but we realize why they're here. I don't. Let's find out together. Stay a while. And listen to chapter 26, of Warcraft Durotan. There were steps carved into the layers of first ice, then rock, forming a narrow, winding path. The lichen on the walls provided sufficient illumination as they passed, but up ahead was utter darkness. Drekthar's grip on Gia's arm was strong but trusting. She knew she was not as good a guide as Palkar, who had spent years tending to Drekthar, but she was careful and patient, pausing as he felt ahead with his staff for each step. Gia was well aware that the shaman was anxious to open himself to the spirits and give them whatever aid they needed, although she was baffled by the thought that such powerful entities needed anything at all from a small, isolated orc clan. It was humbling and alarming. Down they went through the twists and turns of their peculiar path, and she felt the air grow warmer. She thought she heard a faint sound, strange after the constant silence.
Water, Drekthar said, his ears identifying it more quickly than hers. A spring of some sort, it sounds like.
Gia thought of the melted snow they had drunk, and her mouth was suddenly parched at the thought of a bubbling spring. How cool and clean the water would be, tasting of the minerals of the earth. They kept going. The air began to feel fresher on their faces, and after another turn, the stairs opened onto a vast underground chamber. Gia gasped.
Tell me,
Drekthar said, his voice almost but not quite begging. Gia blinked. The chamber above had been astoundingly beautiful, but what opened up to her here made the ice cavern look like a dark, dingy hut. She began to speak, trying her best, knowing she could not adequately describe the wonder. The chamber was underground, but not made of ordinary dirt or stone. It had been carved, if such a word could be used, out of what appeared to be solid crystal. It still gave the appearance of ice, blue and white and 1,000 shades in between, smooth and cool to the touch, but impossibly so far away from the sun, this chamber, this grotto, was still so full of light that her eyes blinked as they grew accustomed to it. Before her stretched a blanket of healthy green grass, dotted here and there with flowers of every color. In the center, the spring which had revealed its presence to them with its cheerful sound, splashed and sang. Gia wondered if she were beholding the last grass and flowers in the world. Beside the spring were apples, berries, pears, cherries, all manner of fruit. She described them to Drekthar, but there really was no need. Both of them could smell the heavenly scent, and Gia's mouth, parched just a moment ago, now flooded with moisture as hunger stabbed at her. Nestled in a corner was what seemed to be a welcoming hearth fire, but as Gia looked at it, she saw no smoke rising, nor did the fire seem to require any fuel, yet the flame flickered and danced cheerfully. When she finished speaking, Drekthar inhaled swiftly. His hand squeezed her arm.
We must first cleanse our faces and hands of the blood we have shed. Then we are invited to partake of the food and water offered by earth and water, to warm ourselves beside fire's gift and breathe deep of the sweet, fresh air. All these things will nourish us, and then we must listen.
Moving in a daze, Gia guided Drekthar to the water. She dipped her hands in, and then, almost as if driven, frantically scrubbed at her skin until all the blood, all the taint from the Red Walkers was gone. The water took the old blood and sweat and soil into itself. For a moment the pool was cloudy and dark, and then all the soil began to disappear until the spring was as clear as if it had never been sullied. Drekthar unwrapped the cloth that hid his eyes from the world. Gia had known the shaman when he still had his sight, but since the wolf attack he had been careful not to show his ravaged face to anyone but Palkar. Her heart ached as she saw her friend's face for the first time since that awful battle. She gazed at the puckered scars, the ruination of one eye, the blank gaze of the other, as Drekthar bathed his hands, arms, and face. For one breathless, hopeful moment, she wondered if the spirits would restore Drekthar's vision, but all she saw in his face was a gentle easing of tension and a soft smile. Tears stung her own eyes as she cupped her purified hands and gulped down the water. Cool and sweet, it quenched her thirst and calmed her as she drank. Then she reached for the fruit nestled in the grass. Famished though she was, she almost did not wish to eat it. It was so perfect. Drekthar sat back, water streaming from his face.
Give me your hand, old friend.
Oh, give me your hand, old friend, Gia said, and placed a blood apple, red and round, into his palm. They ate in grateful silence. The apples were juicy and crisp, the berries so ripe they all but burst on the tongue. Gia did not want to leave. Well, she could imagine the Frostwolf chieftain of legend more than happy to sit and wait upon the arrival of the spirits. The food sated their hunger more rapidly than was natural, but Gia did not question that. She took Drekthar over to the fire, and they held out their hands to the flames, knowing somehow that even were they to walk into its center, here in this place it would never harm them.
The spirits,
Drekthar began, and frowned as a shadow fell over his naked face.
The spirit of life wishes to speak to both of us.
He sank down by the fire almost as if his legs had given way. Concerned, Gia caught his arm, but he waved her off and stretched out on the soft green grass. He reached for her hand, guided it to his heart, then covered it with his other hand. He opened his mouth, and although it was his voice, Gia knew instantly that it was not Drekthar speaking. A shiver ran through her.
Once before have the frost wolves come, said the spirit of life. They came with an arrogance that was endearing in its innocent ignorance of all the complexities of the world, and we, earth, air, fire, water, and life, give a blessing to the frost wolves. Stubborn and strong, you have honored us ever, even when others used our powers for their own.
Gia realized that any questions fell to her to ask. She was not prepared, as she had assumed Drekthar would be the one speaking to the spirits. Instead, he spoke for them. She desperately hoped her questions were the right ones. Spirits, Drekthar has said, you are in need of our help. We have come. What may we do to thank you for aiding us for so many generations?
You have come, and here in the end you have cleansed our sacred place. For that we are grateful. But you are too late, Lore Keeper,
said Drekthar's voice, with such a deep sense of sorrow that tears filled Gia's eyes and spilled down her cheeks.
The blooded ones remembered the old legends and came to claim our seat for their own. We were able to defend this, the heart of our seat. But even though they could not enter here, they drained us greatly. We've been dying slowly, and now we are all but gone. We reached out to all the Draenor shaman. We begged for aid. Most could not hear us. Some did, but they turned away their faces, unwilling to believe what was truly happening. Still others rejected us outright, choosing to follow Gul'dan and his warlock magic of death instead of us and our magic of life. You, the Frost Wolves, almost hurt us in time. Almost,
the spirit of life said sadly, its borrowed voice trailing off.
But this one, even wise as he is, did not fully understand.
This can't be true. Gia felt her heart cracking in the middle of her chest. I see fire, water, earth, all here now. You cannot be dead.
Not dead,
the spirit of life assured her,
but weak. Too weak. First fire, then earth, then water. Air still holds on, but barely. Life will be the last to let go and surrender.
Surrender? How could a spirit surrender? None of the scrolls had prepared her for this. Not a single legend or phrase or teaching or ritual. Her panicked heart fluttered in her rib cage like a trapped bird. She trembled, clinging to Drekthar's limp hand as if to a lifeline. You are forsaking us? What will we do? She suddenly recalled Drekthar's words on the night of Garad's pyre, the night her son would become chieftain. Be judged by the spirits our people have honored since time began, and which will be, even when we are forgotten and no mouths sing our names. Anger abruptly replaced fear, and she demanded, If it was too late, then why have you called us here? Just to sit and watch you all die? Drekthar's voice was gentle as he spoke the words of the spirit of life.
No, dear one, you have always been strong. Drekthar has always been devoted. Your clan will need this. You must be sure to stay with them. We do not die, as you understand the term, but neither can we continue to aid you. You have listened and come to us and have purged us of the barbarism that was the Red Walkers. We wish you to know that wherever there is earth, air, fire, water, and life, there also are we, even if we are no more.
This makes no sense, shouted Gia. She realized she was sobbing. I do not understand.
You will,
the spirit of life promised.
but for now we must go and conserve what little is left to us. Your clan will have a final gift from us, and you will need it. Your son needs you now, Gia. Go to him. Hurry. And do not forget us.
Drekthar's chest fell with an exhalation of breath, and then rose again, but this time Gia somehow realized that the spirit of life was no longer speaking through him. Drekthar, did you...
Yes, he said, sitting up. I heard everything, and I felt.
He shook his head.
I will tell you later, but for now what I felt was the spirit's urgency. Durotan needs us now.
They went up the steps faster than they had come down. Drekthar and Gia were fueled by fear and urgency. As they neared the top, a hand shot out and seized Drekthar's arm, hauling him up the last 2 steps. Durotan, who had always ever been respectful of his elders, now grabbed Drekthar and Gia both. His eyes were wild, full of fury and fear.
This was a trap, he said. Dozens of Red Walkers have been living here. Only a few of them stayed behind to delay us so that the rest of them could go on ahead.
Still reeling from the words of the spirit of life, Gia asked, Go ahead to where? Durotan's face contorted in anguish as he spoke words that nearly broke her.
To destroy the Frost Wolves.
That was what I surmised at the end of the last episode, that was the most likely and worst case scenario of what was about to have happened. I tried to talk myself out of it. But actually, this is the worst case. I didn't know that it was going to be like, yeah, game over. That sucked. We have 4 chapters left. And it's just seeming like we're painting a picture more and more about why the Frostwolves have to ultimately join Gul'dan's horde. And it's just a book leading up to that. Which is kind of cool that they devoted a book to that. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's not going to wrap up. It's not going to shape up to anything positive. Thank you everybody so much for watching, listening, and joining me on this journey. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe and all that good shebang. But I'll see you guys on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft, because this one's in the pipe. 5x5.